Hello, world. We just wrapped up our confidential summit, better known as the Confidential Computing Summit.com in San Francisco. We brought together a really collection of the world's greatest minds on AI and security. The emphasis of the event was building a trust layer for the internet and AI. And I'm not overstating it when I say a collection of the world's greatest minds. We had hardware innovators, NVIDIA, AMD, Intel, ARM, alongside hyperscalers, so the CTO of Microsoft Azure, Mark Russinovich, the leaders from Google Cloud, also combined with enterprise deployers like Accenture and McKinsey, some of the world's largest software implementers, as well as independent software vendors, all coming together, talking about the need for a trust layer in this new agentic world that we're experiencing. We also had Joe from Crew AI and the team from LangChain there. Now, in addition to all of the industry experts, we had folks flying in from Asia, Europe, all over the Americas, from academia. So really the leading researchers, including Ian Stoica, who's the executive chairman and co-founder of both Databricks and Anyscale, professor at UC Berkeley and the co-director of the UC Berkeley SkyLab, formerly known as the RISE Lab. Jan gave a sweeping look at the AI stack from systems like Ray and VLLM to projects like Vicuna and MIM-GPT. He framed the next frontier as confidential AI, really citing an urgent need for the emerging trust crisis, which was the focus of my keynote. He pointed out that while the value of agentic systems scales linearly, the risks compound exponentially as you add agents that are human capable, but operating at machine speed to the network. And his closing message echoed my keynote, which was trust must be embedded into the architecture, not just later on after the deployment. And then throughout the event, we had dozens of reference architectures of confidential AI where there's verifiable guarantees built into the stack. And there were various guarantees depending upon the reference implementation. Opaque announced a confidential AI stack built on LangGraph with NVIDIA NeMo. And our guarantees are both before, with verification of the hardware attestation of a resource like an agent, during, with cryptographic reinforcement of data policies in an encrypted environment where everything runs inside of the hardware trusted execution environment, and then after, with an attested audit trail signed by the hardware. Mark Russinovich, he shared specific reference architectures inside Microsoft around confidential AI. Meta, Apple, Samsung, they were all there sharing their own reference architectures, as was Google, of course. And then Anthropic made jaws drop with a bunch of really interesting statistics. At Anthropic, Claude writes somewhere between 60 to 65% of all of the source code. And he predicts that in the next 12 months, it will be 90 to 95%, or actually, I believe he said by year's end, 90 to 95% of all code at Anthropic will be written by Claude. He also had a really interesting stat where over the course of 70 years of AI history, we've seen a 4x increase in compute for AI training every 12 months. And then he shared his opinion that this is the year of the agent, but he pointed out that in the near future, we'll probably look back at this year of the agent and think of it in terms of Gopher, the original access to the internet, right? Gopher out of University of Minnesota, which I think he's right about that. And then furthermore, Anthropic, Jason, shared their reference architecture for confidential AI, which they're pioneering on AWS, built for integrity, privacy, and real world, like protecting the data, protecting the model weights. And then across all of the sponsors, AMD and other big technology companies, everybody had product announcements, which is so just rewarding. Anyway, I was very impressed that we organized this summit, that everybody was coming together, making product announcements, and then also agreeing that by this time next year, we will have an interoperable confidential AI stack providing data and model weight guarantees. And then we'll work on this together. It began at Summit this week. Everybody was actively involved, including big players like Apple, Meta, TikTok. Meta had their reference architecture for private processing for WhatsApp messages. So in closing, thank you all for attending. Thank you for those of you who tuned in remotely. Please subscribe to AI Confidential. So you can go to aiconfidential.com. It's our newsletter, and there's also a podcast at podcast.aiconfidential.com. Subscribe to the newsletter. We will be dropping PowerPoints, videos as they get produced and released from the event. And you're not going to want to miss this. The big takeaway is we must build a trust layer. This trust layer during the first phase of the human internet that Vint Cerf, the father of the internet, has opined about his regret for not building a cryptographic trust layer. It has to be built for the agentic web because these agents aren't rate limited. You can't buffer them out of the system when they're self-replicating and operating with human-like capabilities at machine speed in the same way we can in a human web. So confidential AI, another big takeaway, it was everywhere. It's a critical component for the trust layer. I use those two terms interchangeably. And over the next 12 months, we've all pledged to making it interoperable across Google, Microsoft, Anthropic, Accenture, Opaque, and others that were at the event. So stay tuned in. Go subscribe to aiconfidential.com, and we'll be dropping additional information. And most of all, thank you so much for your enthusiasm, the attendance with more than 540 registrants, or maybe it was like 538 registrants. And it was just fantastic. Oh, and huge thanks to Mark Hinkle, who organized the Day Zero workshop with Crew AI, NVIDIA, John Willis. Thanks to all of those folks. There were some other ones. Take a look at it at confidentialcomputingsummit.com. Thank you all. And looking forward to working collaboratively across the next 12 months to release an open, interoperable stack to create the trust layer that the world deserves and the world desperately needs in this new agentic time.